Hello, everyone. I'm thrilled to be here with you tonight, and so is the water wheel, to talk about one of my favorite subjects, design and innovation. So, Wello works on a big issue, the global water crisis, and something that big, I think, requires a little bit of context. So I'll just start by asking you to take a little trip with me. So imagine you're in Abu Dhabi airport, and you deplane and walk to the luggage carousel, where if you're like me, you probably need to use a little effort to pull your 20-kilo bag off the carousel. And as my colleague is demonstrating in the visual here, lift it to your head. So personally, I don't think I could do that, but try with me. Lift it to your head, and then walk about 45 minutes. How many of you think you could do this? I don't see too many hands. The shocking thing, though, is that this is the trip that's a reality for women and girls in the developing world. They make this trip every single day, but they're not going on a vacation, right? They're collecting water. So the problem we work on, the global water crisis, is multifaceted. And so I'll break it down for you in the next couple slides. Water is heavy. Typically, women carry water in 20-liter vessels, which is like what you see in this photo. 20 kilos or 44 pounds is heavy. It means that the weight of that water compressing down on your spine every day causes serious complications. In addition to chronic pain, it can even lead to curvature of the spine and death during childbirth. Water collection is also time-consuming. Women and girls spend about 26% or 3 to 4 hours a day collecting water. The distances are extreme, anywhere from 4 to 6 kilometers or more. And what we hear over and over again is it's not enough. The UN recommends that people have access to 20 liters per person per day to maintain a basic level of health, keeping your immune system functioning, staying hydrated, staying healthy. When you don't have enough water, your entire body suffers. There are diseases like trachoma, which can lead to blindness simply by not washing your eyes enough. Finally, the single most effective way to prevent diarrheal disease, which is the second leading killer of children under the age of 5, is hand washing. But in many of the households I personally work in, there's not enough water to spare to wash your hands. And this is what we typically think of when we think of the global water crisis, unsafe water. The reality is that many times water is contaminated at the source, as you're seeing Clara collecting in this picture, but it can also be contaminated at the point of use. So it leads to this very, very vicious cycle. And finally, who's collecting this water? The global water crisis primarily impacts women and girls. And for example, 75% of the girls in Rajasthan drop out of school by the time they're 15 years old because they have chores to do, and the chore that takes up the most amount of their time per day is water collection. Now, many of you have probably heard of this concept called the girl effect. So the idea is that if you educate a girl, she's more likely to go on to make smart decisions on behalf of her family when she becomes an adult. So those additional years in school mean that a woman's more likely to invest in her children's education. But think about all these girls who are dropping out of school. They're missing out on these opportunities. And let's face it, women have way better things to do with their time than spend hours every day hauling 20-kilo vessels on their heads. So when you add it all up, the time, physical, and health burdens of water collection combine to lock families in an incredibly vicious cycle of poverty. It's a big problem. So Wello launched in India, where 76% of households do not have a tap. This means that over 600 million people are walking every day to fetch their water. The problem gets bigger when you expand to include the entire world. 3 billion people who live more than a kilometer from what the UN defines as a safe water source. So this, in a nutshell, is the global water crisis. Big and bigger. And this is where Wello comes in as well. So by reframing the water crisis as an opportunity, we challenged ourselves to think in a different way. Our mission is to deliver clean water to a thirsty world. And with that, I'll show you a quick video. And I think I need you guys to actually connect it for me. Thank you. Okay, so when we first started, we really had to understand the problem. So we actually went to the source. I moved to Rajasthan and lived in a rural village for about 9 months to really understand if we were going to make some dent in this global water crisis, how to do it. So when we looked at what were the features people would want to see in a product, what was important to them. And this is what we learned after a lot of conversations, a lot of carrying water. People really needed to see or wanted to use a high quality product that would be durable. It would have to make their task of collecting water more convenient, much more convenient. It had to be affordable, aesthetically pleasing, because looks are important, and it had to keep clean water clean. So this is how all those features map onto the water wheel. And this is how it stacks up against what people are currently doing, the pots that people are already using to head load. So oftentimes, when people see the water wheel, and some of you may be thinking the same thing, they say, it's so simple. How did you do it? And that to me is the biggest compliment, because it was far from simple. Our team spent 9 months living in rural villages and 2 years in a design and prototyping phase. So, but this is how we did it. First and foremost, we tried. We made a lot of different prototypes. We tested them out. We iterated on them. We spent a lot of time head loading water. And we failed a lot. So I'll give you one example of this failure and how important failure is. This is a community in Rajasthan where we spent a lot of time, and we'd go into the village, and it was always the men who wanted to participate, and our team was really focused on women and girls, because we knew that women and girls were the ones collecting water, and we wanted to get their feedback on our designs and our ideas. And when the men were around, the women were a lot more timid. So we would go through great lengths to find something else for the men to do, to get them to another room. In fact, I think we were spending more time trying to figure out how to distract the men so that we could talk to the women. And finally, we just gave up. And we said, look, if the men want to be here, fine, let them be here. And it turns out, we didn't realize this, but the men were also carrying water. The men weren't head loading water, but they were carrying water on their shoulders or simply holding it. So they actually wanted to be in the room with us because this was a product they wanted to use. And so we from that point on, learned that we had to be so much more inclusive in our work, and it's made us, I think, a much better organization. And finally, we have fun. So the consumers who we work with and design with, the end users of our product, are incredibly busy people. And we want to make sure that if they're taking time away from their day to give us feedback and help us learn, that it's either educational and or, hopefully both, fun for them. So some of the things that we do, we don't walk around with clipboards and spreadsheets telling numbers, but we play games. So this is an example of a game that we play called the Bindi Body Map game, which we ask women to put bindis on a map of the body wherever they feel pain. So people like playing these games, and we learn a lot in the process. Finally, our focus is on innovation. So we're currently working on about 3 different innovations, ranging from clean water to a device that will generate energy using the rotation of the wheel, enough to power a cell phone or a solar lantern. And this has a mind of its own. But Wello sees that across the spectrum of water, there are people working on everything from access to clean water to education to storage and conservation, and we don't see ourselves as producing a silver bullet solution that will solve everything, but instead providing tools that will enable people all across this clean water value chain to be more effective in their work. Whether it's improving a water source, we can double the number of people that can be reached by a well, for example. So our model is one of collaboration. And this is exactly how we work. We provide our tools to people who are already in villages and already working on issues related to whether it's water, education, economic empowerment, livelihood development. So we work through CSR initiatives, we work with NGOs, governments, even traditional distribution channels to get water wheels to the last mile to the people who need them the most. So to give you an idea, after 18 months of collecting data on the impact of the water wheel, here's what we're learning. We're finding that people have access to 50% more water. So in our pilot communities, people went from having 13 liters of water per person per day to 24. They're enjoying better health. So we have reports that they're feeling less pain, they're less tired, chronic backaches are gone. The money that was being spent on doctors to get medical attention for severe back pain is no longer required. People can make the decision too to access water sources that they know are safe, but they would have been out of their reach before, so they can travel a longer distance to get safe, clean water. Productivity. So when people are spending less time head-loading water, they have more time to spend in productive ways. And we're finding that people tell us, for example, I'm a better mother, or I do my job better. So we have, for example, nurses who we work with, who they're on time for work now because they make one fewer trip in the morning, or their husbands share the burden of water collection. And last, increase in income. So people are earning more money as a result of the water wheel. And when you look at this on a bigger scale, the water wheel helps achieve 7 of the 8 UN Millennium Development Goals. So it's not just affecting people's water health, but a whole broad spectrum of development indicators. And this is a short video, if you can hit play on this one. This is the experience of one village that we've been working in.
शिंदेपोडामधली विहीर आहे जे 2 किलोमीटर असेल बहुतेक आणि तिकून मग डोक्यावर गुंडावर गुंड 2 गुंड घेऊन येतो आणि चालणं नाही होत ते दगडाचा रस्ता चढ उतार आहे आणि तेवढं ओझं घेऊन चालता येत नाही आणि अर्ध्या तासामध्ये एक ट्रिप परत अर्ध्या तासात एक ट्रिप तर 3 ते 4 तास म्हणजे नुसतं पाण्यामध्ये जातात पाणी भरासाठी
आमच्या गावामध्ये म्हणजे एक विहीर आहे, ते गावातल्या विहिरीला पाणी राहत नाही. इकडं 4 किलोमीटर 5 किलोमीटरच्या अंतरावर विहिरी आहे, त्या विहिरीवर पण जावं लागत होतं.
फर्स्ट टाइम व्हेलो व्हील. मग आम्ही विचार केला की अरे वा, हे तर माणसंही आणू शकते एवढं पाणी, मग बायांचा त्रास कमी होऊ शकते, तर मग डोक्याचा त्रास कमी होईल. तो विचार सगळ्यात आधी दिमागात आला.
पळसून गावामध्ये पहिले मी वॉटर व्हील आणलेला आहे वापर करून. मग नंतर मी डेमो केला गावामध्ये. मग डेमो झाल्याच्या नंतर लोकांनी मग माझ्याकडे आहे का असं विचारलं.
एक व्यक्ती जास्तीत जास्त आम्ही 2 गुंड घेऊन जाऊ शकतो. 2 गुंडामध्ये जास्तीत जास्त 10-20 लिटर पाणी येऊ शकते. आणि वॉटर व्हील जे आणलं याच्यामध्ये 50 लिटर पाणी येते, त्यामुळे आम्ही वॉटर व्हील घेऊन जाऊ शकतो.
पहिला आधी कसं मला थोडक्या पाण्यात आणि ते कपडे धुतलेले पाणी ठेवा जमा करून ते सड्याला टाका. आता तसं नाही, पाणी ते आणते तर आता पाणी भरपूर वापरायला पण मिळते. आता आपण बाहेरचं ते जॉबही करू शकतो आणि घरी पाणीही आणू शकतो.
ते वॉटर व्ह्यूमध्ये एक फायदा झाला आम्हाला की शेतीचं कामही चालते आणि आम्ही पाणी पण भरू शकतो.
वॉटर व्हील आलं ते पण 20% जास्त झालं, ते पण छान वाटलं.
मी विहिरीत नाही जात, नाही घेतलं तर मी पाणी नाही आणत. तुम्ही आणा, मी स्वयंपाक करून देणार, पण पाणी नाही आणणार.
हे बघा, माझ्या गावची 58 लोकांची यादी आहेत माझ्याकडे. आणि या सर्व लोकांना वाटत आहे की आम्हाला वॉटर व्हील लवकरात लवकर मिळावा. आणि सर्व लोक वॉटर व्हीलच्या प्रतीक्षेत आहेत.
So we're at an exciting point. After 2 years of designing, prototyping, iterating, we've incorporated all of that into our next design, and we're currently building molds for a 2.5 water wheel, which is better than before. We're growing, so we're able to reach villages like Manohars in Maharashtra, and scaling to include countries outside of India. So we'll be heading to East Africa and Myanmar in the next 6 months. People always ask me, how can they help? So until we're at scale, which is for us around 25,000 water wheels a year, $20 will enable us to deliver a water wheel to a village in need. And this is just a snapshot of Narmada, who gained the benefit from a water wheel of doubling her income, spending half as much time on water collection, and just all around being a better mother and a better nurse in her community. So thank you, and I'll answer questions later.